Barack Obama's former staff defending their old boss after President Trump's wiretapping allegations. One of them, former Obama speechwriter Ben Rhodes, trolling President Trump yesterday, tweeting, "No president can order a wiretap. Those restrictions were put in place to protect citizens from people like you."
Ouch. So who is Ben Rhodes and what is his stake in all of this? Joining us now with those answers, Executive Vice President at the Center for Security Policy, Jim Hansen. Good morning, Jim. Obviously, Ben Rhodes deeply invested in the Iran nuclear deal, as we were talking about a few moments ago, which President Trump has said he's going to unravel.
And he's actually one of the serial fabulists who helped lie to the American public, and a know-nothing foreign policy person who led the D.C. journalist crowd down the garden path into helping them and Obama and he lie about the Iran deal and get it into effect.
You're referring to a New York Times Magazine profile of him a couple of years ago where Ben Rhodes openly admitted that he was essentially tricking reporters into believing this deal was going to be really tough on Iran. Didn't he say that?
He said it. It wasn't true. There's nothing about the Iran deal, essentially, that has even an element of truth. You know, you've got a guy who was a wannabe fiction writer who found his ideal role as the script writer for Obama's delusional foreign policy fantasies. This guy should have never gotten anywhere near our national security, and it's a disgrace that he and Obama used their mind meld to turn most of the world into wreckage.
And so what do you anticipate his role to be now, today, post-presidency? What's Ben Rhodes going to try to do?
Well, he is obviously part of the resistance. You know, he's one of the people right now who is helping organize the other side, the Obama loyalists, and the people who are part of the anti-Trump movement in trying to obstruct President Trump from running his agenda. You know, it's obvious his role right here is trying to pretend, oh, the president didn't order a wiretap. Well, does anybody on earth with an above room temperature IQ believe he didn't know about it and approve it? Of course he did. Rhodes is part of the team trying to stop Trump from governing, and I think it's going to be painful for him and the rest to see what happens when an investigation comes down. I've heard from inside the administration there may be people going to jail.
For what? For leaks? Leaking classified information, or?
To start with, for sure, leaking classified information. And there are other things. You know, the entire resistance movement seems to have been planned. And the more they look into this, the more they think there are actual things that may have broken the law by a number of people. So we'll find out.
Concerted attempts potentially before the election and then during the transition to disseminate and declassify certain information that certainly wouldn't be above board.
You know, and they changed the rules. One of the last things Obama did was to soften the rules for what the NSA can release regarding intercepted communications. I wonder why.
Yeah, Jim Hansen, this story is still playing out. We appreciate your insights this morning.
Thanks a lot.
If the Obama administration did wiretap Trump Tower, they needed an order from the FISA court to do it, as you just heard. What would the president know about that wiretap? Would he know anything at all? A former DOJ official, J. Christian Adams, knows all about that process. He takes us inside that process.
Reaction pouring into President Trump's bombshell allegations against the man who preceded him. He, quote, just found out that Mr. Obama had ordered wiretaps of Trump Tower.
They did spend time listening to conversations between then Senator Jeff Sessions and the ambassador to Russia. What other conversations did they listen in on?
Spokesman for the former president saying the Obama White House never ordered surveillance, they say, on any U.S. citizen.
Bottom line is you still have an administration using investigative tools to go after a political opponent, and that's a very scary business.
Supporters of President Trump holding rallies across the country. Today's events are called March for Trump.
This is about America first, and I support this president and all the things that he's doing, and that's why I'm here today.
There's at least a couple dozen of these anti-Trump protests. Their goal was to shut down any support for President Trump. In Berkeley, California, protesters went up to the group and started arguing, which led to shoving and fist flying.
Such a great country, and I think a lot of people don't look at that. We are so blessed in so many ways by what we have, and I think Trump is really there to help us get even better again.
That's so sweet. And it's good to have you back this morning.
Great to be here.
And so
much going on.
We didn't kick you out yet.
So much happening.
So much happening. I mean, the news really broke on our show yesterday, if you were tuning in. As we said, we had a whole show planned. ripped it all up because President Trump tweeted, and now the conversation has completely changed.
It has. No, the conversation yesterday, if you follow the news throughout the day yesterday, a lot of conversation, speculation, trying to get underneath, okay, these 4 tweets in the morning, wiretaps at Trump Tower.
Right.
What does it all mean? Where did it all come from? Was it done legally, illegally? Where are the sources? Where's the evidence? Just a ton of conversations. And I think even this morning, a lot of questions, but also I think we're getting a few more answers even in the first hour.
Well, started with dramatic allegations, as you say yesterday, of the president, the current president, accusing the previous president of basically ordering wiretaps of Trump Tower. The former president putting out this statement yesterday that left a lot of wiggle room, insisting that he never ordered the wiretapping. However, maybe someone else in his administration did. We're still trying to confirm all of that. And then last night, here on Fox, you had Corey Lewandowski, the first campaign manager for Donald Trump, doubling down on all of this and saying it wasn't just Trump Tower. The U.S. Senate may have been bugged as well. Watch this.
What we've seen from the previous administration is that they did spend time listening to conversations between then Senator Jeff Sessions and the ambassador to Russia while he was in his U.S. Senate office. If that were to take place, which supposedly did take place, what other conversations did they listen in on from the American public?
That they were listening to conversations between then Senator Sessions and the Russian ambassador Kislyak? Or are you talking about Mike Flynn and Kislyak?
No, I'm talking about Jeff Sessions. So, this previous administration has said that they were aware of the conversation on 2 different occasions where then Senator Jeff Sessions met with the ambassador, one time during the Republican National Convention, but more importantly, the second time that he met with was in the United States Senate office in a federal building, and they were monitoring what a United States senator was having a private conversation with, is what I understand. And if that is the case, that's very concerning.
It's powerful information. It would be very concerning if the FISA court order that was issued in October, which is what's coming out, that there was one attempted in June but denied, and then a FISA court order granted in October, if that was used to surveil broader than, say, what they initially asked for, or in certain places that they didn't want. We don't know that. We don't know if that's the case. But what Corey Lewandowski is suggesting is that there was a concerted effort to take some of that information or utilize some of it in certain places, not just to identify if there are foreign threats or foreign surveillance, but to disseminate information about Trump and his associates and others. And you look at all the leaks that have come out, first against General Flynn, very specific, now with Jeff Sessions. Where's this information coming from?
Yeah, that's the big question. Where are these leaks coming from? And if they're, it almost makes you think that there has to have been some sort of a wiretapping for the intelligence, people coming out of the intelligence leaking this stuff, right? That's where you really are trying to figure out, where did this begin? What is the problem here, and how do we get
Well, and there was a January 19th New York Times story, January 19th being important. It was the day before Donald Trump's inauguration, reporting that the outgoing Obama administration had wiretapped information that played into the whole Russia investigation. Didn't get specific.
But it opened it up, though, to the intelligence community so that they could all have access to what that information told them. And that's what makes you believe that it comes from these leaks, that maybe these leaks come from the wiretapping, right? What he was so good at doing yesterday, though, whether or not he ends up having proof, that is all yet to be known, and we don't have all those facts yet. But changing the narrative, changing the way we talk about the story, right? Because before this, they were very much on the defense. And President Trump is saying, hey, if you're going to accuse me of colluding with the Russians, let me tell you, they're not the good guys either. They're also tapping into Trump Tower. They're also trying to find our personal conversation.
And I think a big part of their frustration is, okay, why does the failing New York Times and Washington Post, why do they get to write stories that we have to respect with no sourcing and no evidence and anonymous this and outrageous headlines, but the President of the United States, who has access to an FBI director, an NSA, all of those things, and here's some of the headlines from the media saying, no evidence, baseless wiretaps, citing no evidence. Trump's got no evidence. He's the commander-in-chief with access to intelligence. Listen, the onus will be on him and others to carefully show where this is coming from, and I think there's a lot more. There likely is a lot.
But when you say the Washington Post doesn't have sources, they had a story a few days ago about Jeff Sessions.
It's all anonymous, and it's all
he had to
leaked
acknowledge,
out.
oh, I did actually have another meeting.
And then where did those leaks come from? And
and those questions are there, but it doesn't mean the story wasn't true.
No, some of these things.
It was so true that Jeff Sessions had to recuse himself.
But the fact of the matter is, there's been plenty of other articles where there's absolutely no evidence in anonymous sourcing, and they, in the 7th paragraph, have to say, turns out there actually is no collusion between the Russians.
And to Abby's point about Donald Trump being on defense, going on offense yesterday, then it was former President Obama who suddenly was on defense. His camp put out this statement, quote, a cardinal rule of the Obama administration was that no White House official ever interfered with any independent investigation led by the Department of Justice. As part of that practice, neither President Obama nor any White House official ever ordered surveillance on any U.S. citizen. Any suggestion otherwise is simply false. A couple things. One there, that last part, they never ordered surveillance of a U.S. citizen. James Rosen is a U.S. citizen. He's going to be on the show later. There were surveillance of him earlier in the Obama administration. Are they just trying to be cute and say, the president, yes, there was surveillance, but the president never ordered it? That doesn't mean the surveillance didn't happen with James Rosen.
That's exactly,
doesn't mean it didn't happen at Trump Tower.
That's exactly what John Favreau, the former speechwriter for President Obama, this is what he tweeted yesterday as all of this was breaking. He said, I'd be careful about reporting that Obama said there was no wiretapping. Statement just said that neither he nor the White House ordered it. That's big.
This is not a Trump supporter. This is someone who worked for President Obama. You can drive a truck through the caveats in that tweet as well as the other one. You just can. I mean, you're hedging and hemming and using words properly. There's no denials in there.
Ford 150 or what kind of?
No, I'm thinking like a big rig.
Big rig,
like a big rig or a Humvee. You can go straight through it. Because listen, that's not a denial. That is, in fact, that's in part evidence. And if I'm President Trump right now, I'm saying they're not denying that. They're merely saying, well, technically, this person, that person. And we had Ed Klein on earlier, who's well-sourced in Washington, D.C., and he gave us a little bit of additional insight about maybe some infighting between agencies and what that may tell us about what President Trump knows and how he knows it. Take a listen.
According to my sources, Comey, the director of the FBI, and Trump have, in fact, had conversations about this. And so where Trump is getting this, I believe, is directly from James Comey, that you've been tapped, this is probably not legal, and that's what set off Donald Trump. The FBI is now looking into whether the NSA did something illegal. And if so, you're going to have not only a war between the intelligence community and the administration, but within the intelligence community with the FBI going after the NSA.
So you're saying there's an yeah, and that comports with reporting we've heard that it was the behind-the-scenes FBI director and others who came to the White House to Reince Priebus and others and said, hey, these reporting on the Russian collusion is BS. And Reince said, hey, help us disseminate that, help us let people know, because that's the truth. So maybe it is the FBI that's trying to be the fair arbiter here and sees other arms of government overreaching.
And when he mentions the NSA, one of our viewers tweeted us a story from 2015 in the Wall Street Journal where the NSA and other intelligence agencies were listening in on Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and other Israeli officials. And you know what happened? Some of his calls and their calls with members of Congress here got swept up in that. And the Obama administration was in the middle of that surveillance. That's a tantalizing twist there as well, because that would be another example where maybe it starts with Russia and all of a sudden it's in Trump Tower. It starts with Israel and it's on Capitol Hill. And remember what Corey Lewandowski said about the surveillance might have been going on in the U.S. Senate. That would be a big problem.
Right, and it also adds to the debate that we've already been having in this country about FISA and the use of those courts and how much power they have in terms of where do you draw the line with our privacy, you know? And I think that's going to continue on with Congress because they've gone back and forth in recent years. I am curious on your thoughts, Ed, on why we haven't heard yet from the White House on the tweets yesterday morning that they have not backed it up with proof yet, that it's not saying that they're not going to.
Well, I think as Pete's saying, the White House may have the view, the current White House, not the former one, that, you know, why do they have to show the proof? They know something, or at least the president claims he knows something. On the other hand, you know, Intercept has a story out today saying, look, the president has the power to declassify anything. So if, in fact, President Obama ordered this or someone in his administration took this to the court, that could be declassified. And all of this could be resolved pretty quickly because then the president of the United States, the current president, could declassify some of this, go to Congress, go to whatever, the FBI, and say, I want the American people to see this evidence.
I think that's very true. But when you get into surveillance of foreign interference potentially, but catching, you know, congressmen or senators, or in this case, a presidential candidate, what's revealed and what isn't revealed is a pretty tricky science. So,
and this continues on. We've got some great guests coming up on the show.
James Rosen, who himself is someone who's dealt with this, but also famed conservative radio talk show host Mark Levin, who is many people credit with starting this. It was in research and other sources that he's had that in part triggered a Breitbart story that in part really revealed what may be going on. So he's going to be on later on in the show as well.
Good stuff.